Welcome back to the news at 10. Let's cross over to Abuja now. Here's Linda Akigbe. Hey, Linda.
Hello, Ijoma. Now let's take a look at other things that happened away from the drama in the National Assembly today. 2 bills to amend the Electoral Act 2010 have been dropped at the House of Representatives. They are bills for an act to amend the provisions of the Electoral Act 2010 to further improve the electoral process and for related matters, and a bill for an act to amend the provisions of the Electoral Act No. 6 of 2010 to make provisions for sequence of elections in Nigeria and for related matters. The development is coming against the backdrop of speculation that a section of the lawmakers had come under intense pressure from the respective state governors. The lawmakers were supposed to debate the general principles of the 2 bills for second reading, but the lead sponsor of the first bill, Aisha Tuduku, was not on the floor, and the chairman, Rules and Business, Emmanuel Okejeff, requested the leave of the House to step down the bill, which focused on electronic voting. Also, the lead sponsor of the second bill, Pwajo Gyang, asked that the bill be stepped down, but some of the lawmakers disagreed with the withdrawal of the 2 Electoral Act amendment bills. And away from the National Assembly, President Muhammadu Buhari will be hosting a conference of the member states of the Economic Community of West African States on the farmers-herdsmen clashes across the country. This was disclosed by the Minister of Interior, General Abdurrahman Dambazao, at the end of this week's Federal Executive Council meeting. He says the meeting was initially planned for last February as part of efforts by the ECOWAS and some other African countries towards finding permanent solutions to the persistent farmers-herdsmen clashes in Nigeria and beyond. The conference, which would also attract participants from the Central African Republic, Chad, Cameroon, Morocco and Mauritania, would explore the relationship between the ECOWAS Protocol on Free Movement, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, and trans-border criminal activities. The meeting will be hosted in Abuja on April the 26th.
We initiated the conference that is to come up between 26th and 29th of this month on the ECOWAS Protocol on Free Movement of persons, goods and services, zeroing particularly on the protocol on the movement of transhumans, which was signed in 1978, but yet to be implemented. And I had meetings with the President ECOWAS Commission, the one that left, and we agreed to have this conference sometimes last month. But because they were leaving and a new set of management was coming in, it was shifted to this month, towards the end of this month. So the whole idea is to look at this issue of movement across borders. The protocol provided, for instance, that any of such movement of transhumans should be received at the reception center by the host country. And there, you know, international transhuman certificate they are supposed to carry. Not only that, they should also go along with international health certificate for the cattle they are going with.
And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Ijoma.
Thanks a lot for that, Linda. President Muhammadu Buhari has been speaking on ways to create a favorable business environment among the Commonwealth states. In a keynote address delivered at the Commonwealth Business Forum, President Buhari advocates for the provision of a platform for small and medium enterprises and a radical expansion of human capital as some of the factors necessary for ease of doing business. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra reports.
That ease of doing business and trade policy.
The setting is the Guildhall in London. President Buhari is addressing a cross-section of Commonwealth business leaders. Speaking on the theme, making business easier between Commonwealth countries, the Nigerian leader believes boosting trade and investment is the surest way to lifting millions out of poverty.
Nigeria believes that making business easier across the Commonwealth will resolve around a number of issues. Firstly, trade and investment facilitation to generate resources for sustainable development. 2, ease of doing business. 3, regional integration that expands markets with safeguards against injurious trade practices from third parties.
Participants applauded the steps taken so far by Nigeria to ensure the ease of doing business, with the president rallying the Commonwealth community to invest in Nigeria. The president had earlier in the day met with the chief executive officer of the oil giant Royal Dutch Shell.
Shell, very nice to meet you, sir. Thank you very much.
It was a private meeting during which a number of issues surrounding the operation of the company in Nigeria were discussed.
They also brought to the fore the fact that they are trying to invest close to about 20 billion over the next few years, and looking to take final investment decisions both on Bonga investment and on Nigeria LNG expansion and new train 7. And seeking his support and leadership in steering them to the very end.
The Shell executive talks about what the company hopes to achieve in the near future.
There's a few milestones that we have to meet still. It is very much resolving some outstanding issues between the international investors and NNPC. But I believe that we are making good progress and that we should be able to get there in the next few weeks, because it's really our ambition to get the tender documentation out in the next few weeks in May, also as a very clear signal that, investments are coming forward in Nigeria.
He also says the company is targeting the expansion of Nigeria's LNG, a project he describes as important and timely. From London, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
Now, the Director General of the National Teachers Institute, Professor Garba Dahua, is advocating digital literacy for Nigerian teachers in order to have a society equipped with digital skills capable of transforming the country. Professor Dahua explains that digital literacy is critical to the global agenda of ensuring good health for all and the creation of digital citizens.
From the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, teachers converge on the nation's capital for a capacity-building workshop on digital literacy and HIV/AIDS. The Director General of the National Teachers Institute sets the ball rolling as he speaks on the essence of the workshop.
The training they receive are expected to have a knock-on effect on the children they teach when they share with them the experiences they gathered at the workshop but in their respective schools.
The sponsor and facilitator of the workshop explains the role of digital literacy in the nation's education system.
We at Axiom Learning Solutions are extremely delighted to be part of this major feat in revamping the education sector, most particularly by targeting continuous professional development, CPD, for our nation's teachers that will address issues of digital literacy in the modern economy.
The chairman of the Governing Council of the National Teachers Institute, who declared the workshop open, agrees that there is a need for teachers to embrace digital literacy.
This workshop is very important. You should pay attention, participate actively, and convey the message to those who are not here for your self-development and for the development of the nation and humanity at large.
With some Nigerians mixing up digital and computer literacy, the director of Axiom Solutions gives an insight into what digital literacy is all about.
Let's not confuse digital literacy with computer appreciation or ICT. They are two different things. Digital literacy is more encompassing, it's strategic, and it's wholesome, and is a mandatory component of the Sustainable Development Goals.
The two-day workshop, organized by Axiom Learning Solutions Limited, is aimed at empowering Nigerian teachers to enable them discharge the duties of molding and shaping the minds of students.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Kayode Ukikiolu.
You first. First Bank.
Thank you, Ijoma, and welcome to Business News. The Central Bank of Nigeria injected some $210 million into the foreign exchange market midweek in order to meet transaction requests. Now, a breakdown of the figures show that the regulator intervened with $100 million at the wholesale segment and allocated $55 million to small and medium enterprises, as well as the invisible segment each. In other news now, a leading provider of strategic intelligence reports Asian bankers preferring advanced banking models for local players in the financial market. At a conference organized by the Singapore-based bank in Lagos, the road to improved digital banking for Nigeria became clearer.
The way I see it is I see a situation where we're duplicating.
Gathered here are top financial players in the Nigerian banking sector, brought together by the Asian banker to brainstorm on the latest global trend in digital transformation for the future of finance in Africa. Explaining the Nigerian approach towards this paradigm shift, the CBN Deputy Director, Banking Supervision, recounts some of the measures taken against electronic fraud and cybercrimes.
The CBN is committed in reducing the number of reported cases through proactive regulation and interaction with other stakeholders across the globe.
For the Asian banker, Africa can be more progressive given the right and favorable environment.
The countries where there's a lot of progress in digital finance and taking banking to the masses and expanding the financial services infrastructure, the countries where a lot of that is happening are countries where the margins are collapsing. So traditional banks cannot make money from what they used to do. And it will be good to see margins collapsing so that the banks are forced to innovate and forced to be transformed.
Digitization remains a top priority for major game players in the banking sector, a move the executives of First Bank of Nigeria say they are well aware of.
It's a cultural change. It's a change towards optimizing and profitably growing our assets, leveraging technology. That's actually one of the key pillars of our strategic objectives for the next 2 or 3 years.
The Nigerian banking space may have evolved from the archaic system, but with 2 years before the finishing line of CBN Financial System Strategy 2020, this meeting is perhaps an eye-opener for operators and regulators to reach the goal.
Invented or wrote the script for the World Wide Web.
And profit taken in Seplat, Interbrew and Union Bank dragged the performance of the all-share index today. Bisi Adebayo has more on the numbers.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Reports. The equity market settled in the negative territory midweek after some load shedding off large cap stocks, marginally bringing down the all-share index by 4 basis points. Sectorally, the banking names blazed the trail against all odds as investors shuffled profits between GT Bank, FBN Holdings and Fidelity Bank. Despite the losses, market breadth came in positive with 24 advances, led by some 10% gains in Jaiz Bank, while Union Bank dipped the most out of 18 laggards. Investors are expected to maintain their bargain hunting stance in the medium to long term. And that's it on the Stock Market Reports. I am Bisi Adebayo.
Thank you, Bisi. It was a mixed trading day in Africa as the benchmark indices in Europe and Asia settled in green midweek. Here are some of the numbers illustrating the performance. That's Business News. Thank you for watching. I am Kayode Okikyolo. It's now back to Ijoma.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks, Coyote. Still ahead on the news at 10, the 4th Berlin Energy Dialogue continues as participants discuss ways of making renewable energy affordable. To join us again.